Hey YouTube, in this video I want to tell you that your electric bill is going from $150 a month to over $2,000 a month within the next 7 to 10 years. I want to tell you how it's happening, why and who is behind this, and also what you can do to protect yourself from that happening to you. So let's begin. Okay guys, so the reason I have my tinfoil hat is because there's going to be a lot of so-called conspiracy theories. However, I will show you proof that it's actually going to be like this, and we already can see it in multiple states in the US where the prices of electricity are skyrocketing. Now, who stands to benefit from it? It is, in my opinion, the global elites, the World Economic Forum. They want you to switch to an electric car, and that's why I have a video of Tesla rolling here. And nothing against Tesla, I want one too, but there is a problem with that when they want to switch all of America into a Tesla. And also the heat pumps. Now, a lot of utilities are pushing for heat pumps, and a lot of states are pushing for heat pumps, and there are federal tax credits, there are state incentives for both heat pumps and the electric vehicles, and they want everybody to be in a Tesla and everybody to have a heat pump so they can raise the price of your electricity, and you won't have any alternatives like gas, like propane, like oil. They want to take those alternatives away from you on a level of the law, and so we already have that happening in New York, where New York has banned gas stoves, and under disguise of gas stoves, they banned gas furnaces and gas boilers. And so they're pushing it through the legislation, they're pushing it with tax credits and incentives and rebates, and in the end, we'll all stand to lose. Okay? So they're using the useful idiots who protest, and they want the climate change. I have nothing against protecting the environment, guys. Trust me, I have solar, I have heat pumps in my house, and I want a Tesla. However, if you look at the bigger picture, there is a great conspiracy to make a lot of money on the backs of regular working Americans, and the conspiracy works like this. So these global elites, they, through legislation, through buying politicians, they're pushing incentives for you to get a Tesla, $7,500 tax credit. Then a lot of states offer you 2, 3, 4 grand in state credits, state rebates. Okay, so you get on a Tesla, and they are cutting the production of oil. They're not giving permits to drill for more oil, to drive up the cost of oil, so that you will see the difference. Oh, Tesla, I can charge it with electricity and drive, and it's actually cheaper, which might be true. However, there's a group of people who stand to benefit from all of this in the long term. So right now they're giving you a handout. It's like drug dealers. They give you a free sample of heroin, and then you start buying from them at elevated prices, and you get hooked, and you have no alternatives. The same thing with electricity. So let's begin. So this will be a not typical format. I usually do it-yourself videos. This will be a talking head video with a lot of data. So I've compressed this data for a shorter format. I just recorded a 2-hour long video with a lot of takes. So I don't expect everybody to watch 2 hours. So I'm trying to make a short version of this video. So let's begin. So first of all, guys, I've spent about 10 to 15 hours on research and compiling all this data. So please click the like button and subscribe to the channel. If you have any comments, leave them in the comment section below. I'm going to take this hat off. It's kind of hot in here. But anyway, so basically, here's Spider Sector XLU. This is an ETF of utilities ETF. So these are the power generating and supplying companies in the United States, and this ETF tracks all those companies. And here we have all those companies, all the utility companies sorted by market cap. So we have NextEra, we have Southern, Duke, Sempra, American, Constellation, PG&E, all the biggest utility companies in the United States. Now, when I'm saying that the global elites are doing this, let's take a look at institutional holdings of these companies, who holds the stock and who gains to benefit from your electric bill going from $150 today to over $2,000. Okay, so here's Southern institutional holdings, so 64% institutional holding in this company. It's Vanguard, BlackRock, State Street. Next, Duke. 64% institutional holding. Vanguard, BlackRock, State Street. PG&E. 90% institutional holding. Only 10% of individual investors hold this company stock. Okay, so we have Vanguard, BlackRock, State Street, JP Morgan, BlackStone. NextEra is the biggest utility company, $120 billion market cap right now, and it's down actually like 25% for the year. So it used to be a lot more, like 150 billion. Okay, so who's holding NextEra? 77% institutional holding. The same BlackRock, Vanguard, State Street, JP Morgan, Morgan Stanley. So this is your Larry Fink. This is the World Economic Forum. They are holding majority stake in this company. Okay, and all the smaller other hedge funds, and through them they stand to gain about 7 to 10 fold increase in revenue. So this is how they're going to do it. they, through incentives, want you to buy a Tesla, and they want you to install a heat pump in your house and use it for heating. And they're offering as much as $15,000 incentives to install heat pumps. You can see here, in California, they're offering up to $14,000 in rebates. In Massachusetts, they're offering up to $16,000 in rebates to install heat pump. In New York, it's close to $12,000. And on the back end, they're driving up the electricity prices. So here's New Jersey, 7% increase, up to 7% increase in this year alone. And in California, what they're doing, they're also, not only California is super expensive to buy electricity, but what they're doing is they're adding a connection fee for every household based on your income. And so if you're in a $180,000 income, you will be paying up to $128 a month just to be connected to the grid. Guys, that's $1,500 a year just to be connected. And then when you buy the electricity from them, that's one of the highest rates at about like 40 to 60 cents a kilowatt hour. So here's how much people in California are paying for their electricity. Their base rate is between 27 and 36 cents per kilowatt hour. Now keep in mind, right now national average is 16 cents as reported by Department of Energy. 16 cents versus 36 cents. And this is like above baseline. Baseline is 600 kilowatt hours a month. Now, I don't know any household that uses less than that. So once you go over 600 kilowatt hours a month, you're paying 36 cents per kilowatt hour. And then you have time of use, which is like between 65 and 74 cents. And this is in the summer. And then over here, these are the winter rates, which are not much better. They're only a couple of cents better. So you're paying about average of like 45 cents per kilowatt hour already. So that's 3 times more than national average. But what they're doing is they're forcing everybody to get into a Tesla and install a heat pump. And that will add tremendous amount of new generation requirement. So you need to add a lot new electricity to the existing capacity. Now in California, they already don't have enough electricity. They buy most of their electricity from Washington State because they have hydro. They buy from their neighbors and they still don't have enough. So they have to shut off your power in the middle of the day when it's like the hottest because there's not enough electricity in the network. So there's rolling blackouts. And yet they're forcing people to switch from gas-powered cars by 2035, I believe it, into a Tesla. I mean, this is ridiculous. There is no way you can charge those Teslas right now, but they want to make it illegal to sell gas-powered cars by 2035. And the same thing is happening in my state of Massachusetts. So if we look at these two power bills, this is from 2 years ago, or 3 years ago, 2020, November 2020, I was paying 21 cents per kilowatt hour, okay? And you can do the math here. Here's how much I paid for the months, and here's my usage. And if we look at my bill from February of 2023, so 2 years and 3 months later, I was paying 43 cents per kilowatt hour. That's more than double in just 2 years and 3 months. And the reason I'm showing you this bill, why it's 2 years and 3 months, because I have solar. So I was having a credit that was getting depleted. And February was essentially the first month when I had no credit and I had to buy electricity from Eversource. So I was paying for almost the same amount of electricity. I was paying double, $417 a month. So the reality is I have solar panels. So a lot of electricity was actually generated on the site and never get accounted here. But I still had to buy electricity from them, which cost me more than $400. Now remember, the average electric bill in the US is $152 right now, but I had to pay $417 while I had solar generation. So that was California and Massachusetts. However, here's New York State, New York City. They're bumping their prices by 9% right now, and they will continue to increase them going forward. And this is at the same time while the natural gas price, which is used to generate electricity, went down about 60% over this summer. They're still raising the price on the electricity, okay? And while they're doing this, they're forcing people into Teslas and they're forcing people to install heat pumps. Now, heat pumps are great. I have heat pumps in my house and I have solar in my house. However, when they're going to force everybody to have a Tesla and to have a heat pump in their home, there's not enough generation in the United States to support this kind of transition. So they'll have to build a lot of new power plants, and they want to build it in solar. And we'll work over solar in a second. But let me show you how much it actually costs to run a heat pump for a typical homeowner in Massachusetts, New York, or in the United States in general. So here is a heating cost calculator on my website, remodelincalculator.org. And so these are the latest numbers of how much energy costs in Massachusetts. Okay, it last updated on November 1st, 2023. We do updates once every 2 weeks. And so the only thing that's adjusted here is the cost of electricity, because my real cost of electricity right now is 34 cents. They lowered the price for the summer. However, they will bump it up again in the winter. Anyway, to run at current rates, that's what people pay to Eversource. Now, all of Boston Metro, basically all of Eastern Massachusetts is Eversource, and Western Massachusetts is National Grid, and they have about the same pricing. So if you calculate this, the cheapest option right now is natural gas. But if you look at all the fuel sources, electric heat pump would cost you $4,000 to run, okay? and only $2,000 to run a natural gas furnace. And they are providing massive incentives for people to switch to heat pumps. Why? It doesn't make sense for a regular homeowner to use a heat pump because it costs double the money to operate it. But they're pumping money through the state, that they're taking taxpayers' money, and they're forcing people to install heat pumps, okay, to heat their home. And actually, this rebate only applies if you have a cold climate-rated heat pump. If you just want an air conditioner, you don't get the rebate. But in the end, you will end up paying double for it, and that's at relatively cheap 34 cents, for Massachusetts. Because remember, over this winter, we're paying 43 cents per kilowatt hour, and at 43 cents, my electric bill would be $5,000 to run a heat pump, and this applies to anybody. Now, if my house is a little smaller, so it's 1,600 square feet, look, I would have to pay $4,000 for electricity if I didn't have solar panels, and only $1,700 for natural gas. So why are they forcing people to switch from the gas to electric? Because they want everybody to sit on electric heat pumps and on a Tesla, and then once they have that, they'll have a justification. We don't have enough generation, we don't have enough power lines, and transformers and substations are outdated, we have to upgrade our equipment, so we're going to raise the price of electricity, and year after year after year, at 50% increases. Now remember, 2 years ago I was paying 21 cents per kilowatt hour, now it's 43. Within a couple of years they will easily get to $1 per kilowatt hour, and I ran the numbers over here. Let me show you. So here's an Excel file I have over here. So we have a number of cars in the US, about 104 million cars, and average driver drives about 13,500 miles, and so it would take about 3,300 kilowatt hours to charge a Tesla Model Y long range. And if you multiply that by the number of cars, okay, you need 172,000 gigawatt hours of new electrical generation, because right now it doesn't exist. If we add if we switch just half of the people in the United States for Teslas, we need this number. If we switch 75% of drivers, we need 258,000 gigawatt hours of power added to the grid. But that's nothing, guys. Look at the heat pumps. So average heat pump for a household. Now we calculate it over here. So see, 9,400 kilowatt hours per year. That's what you need just for heating, just to heat your home. And my house is super efficient. I have super efficient heat pumps. So I used over last winter about 8,200 kilowatt hours. But because I have super efficient heat pumps and because I shut off my main heat pump during the day, otherwise this would be a much higher number. Okay, so we go back to this slide over here, and so while I call this high number, it's an average, okay, for a typical home in the United States to use this much power to make heat in your home using most efficient heat pumps. Okay, the less efficient heat pumps will use a lot more, like 12 to 15,000 kilowatt hours. But let's go with this number, 10K. All right. So at 10K, at 50% penetration, when they switch half of the United States into heat pumps, you need to add 720 gigawatt hours of new production. We don't have that right now. And then when we total it out, at 50% penetration of EVs and heat pumps, we need 900,000 new gigawatt hours of electricity production per year. Okay. So to get all that new generation, they use the useful idiots to advocate for more solar. I'm all for solar, guys. I love solar. I love solar on my roof. I have free heating and free electricity and free cooling. And in a year or something like that, my solar panels will pay themselves off, and I will have free heating and cooling going forward. Okay, but this is just my personal case. I have a roof that's facing south, and I have a huge solar panel array on it. But they're calling for clean power to all people. Great. How it's going to work? Well, they don't tell you. I will tell you how it's going to work. So if you look at this map right here, this is the map of sun hours per day. Basically how much sun you get each day and how much electricity a solar panel can generate. Okay, so you see most sun hours are in the red, and that's over here down south. California, West Texas, and Arizona, New Mexico, Nevada. Okay, but they want to switch people into heat pumps over here in the north because that's where it's actually cold. Okay, and so there's very little sun over there, and you're not going to export power from California into North Dakota. No, you have to build it locally. Okay, but over here in North Dakota, we have very little power generation going on. You have only about, well, actually no, North Dakota is pretty good. But let's say Illinois. Illinois, you get about 2.5 hours of sun per day in the winter, and an average of 3 hours of sun per day. Okay, in Massachusetts, you have an average of almost 4, but in the winter it's only 3 hours per day that you actually have solar, when you actually need the power. Okay, so you cannot generate the power in the summer and save it for the winter. It's just physically, well, it's possible physically, but you need so many batteries to store enough power for a whole year, that's like unattainable. Okay, so here is a webpage on the solar energy industry association, and there's a lot of great data on this page. And here's a map of where the solar panels actually installed in the United States. And you can see that the dark blue is where it's get installed, and the white is where it doesn't get installed. And the lighter shades are less solar, and the darker shades are more solar. So all the solar power is getting installed over here, and a lot of it over here, but not much in the north where it's actually cold and you need electricity to run the heat pumps. Okay, so it's not going to get transported here. And let's look at how much solar gets installed a year. So we picked at 24 gigawatts of solar. Now, because that's in the south, they have a lot of sun hours, okay? But since they're switching people to heat pumps in the north, in New York, in Massachusetts, in Illinois, okay, where it's actually cold and you need the electricity in the winter, you need a lot of solar capacity to get installed. So 24 gigawatt hours, okay? And I made a spreadsheet. No, 24 gigawatts, okay? That's the peak installation that we had in 2021, and right now it's going to be half of that. But let's say we start from this number and we grow at a compound rate of 30% per year. Each year we increase our new installed capacity by 30%. Let's take a look. So after 10 years of 30% annual growth, we generate 570,000 gigawatt hours, and our total new installed capacity is 331 gigawatt, okay, from 24 to 231. It's not really feasible, but let's say we do that, okay? We go back here. That's not enough even for a 50% penetration. And again, guys, this is we need that in the north, okay? So that generation capacity, new generation capacity has to be much higher than that. So let's take a look at 40% compound growth, 40% increase every year, starting from 24 kilowatts, okay? So we finally get to a number that will be satisfactory, 1.2 million gigawatt hours of new generation, okay? And that's 694 gigawatt hours. Now, to go from 24 to 694, that's a lot of new solar panels to be installed. Okay, guys, just so you understand the magnitude of what 694 kilowatts or gigawatts is, right now the total installed capacity in the United States is 155 gigawatts total, okay? And as time goes on, some of those panels, they get bad, and also, they collect dust, so you have to wash them or wait for the rain. So that actual production is ideal, but not practical, because there's always going to be some losses. But anyway, we have to more than quadruple the current installed capacity to get to a satisfactory level of only 50% penetration of EVs and heat pumps. Look, 694. From 155 to 694 additional. So that's total of like 850 total gigawatt hours. It's mind-boggling. It's like most likely not going to happen. So all the useful idiots who want clean power now, all these guys, and these guys, and even these guys, they don't understand. It's not going to work like they want it. Like, I'm all for it. I want the solar power. But there's another problem, guys. So that's just the production, the generation capacity. However, in the winter, if we look at this chart here, okay, in the northern states, this is the states where you actually need the heat. In the winter, you only have 4.5 hours of average production, but this is average. But in the winter production, during the day, is 3.5 hours of sun. Okay, so you don't generate enough electricity during the winter, so you need storage. And even with storage, there's rainy days, there's cloudy days, there's snowstorms, so you need a huge amount of storage and a lot more generating capacity in the north of the United States. So this number is artificial, and it doesn't mean much because this is averaged out throughout the year. But most of your consumption will be in the winter. I'll show you. Look at my production, my solar production, okay? So you can see the January and December, they're the lowest months, and May, June, and July are the highest months. But you cannot save that electricity in the summer and save it for the winter when you actually need it, because my consumption, let's look at the consumption. Okay, the highest consumption is in the winter, in the December, in January, and February. And the lowest consumption is in the summer. Production is lowest in the winter, but the consumption is highest in the winter. So to get to satisfactory, to basically produce enough solar electricity in the winter, this number has to be a lot higher. This number has to be like, I don't know, 1,000 gigawatts. And most of that has to be in the north. Okay, so where I'm going with this, okay? So once they hook enough people and force enough people into electric heat pumps, and when I say force, look at this. New York State is the first state to ban gas stoves, and they show you this picture of like cooking eggs on a gas stove. This is BS. And furnaces and gas boilers. And right now they only ban it in the new construction. But a couple of years down the road, what they will say is, okay, well, your old furnace broke, you can no longer install a new gas furnace, you now have to install a heat pump. So eventually, within 10 to 15 years, all those furnaces, they will break down. That's just what happens, they only last 10, 15 years, and people will be forced to install heat pumps. And with the heat pump, you don't have a choice of gas or oil. You only have electricity. And unless you have solar panels in your roof, you have to buy that electricity from PG&E, from Duke, from Southern, from Nextera, and essentially you're giving your money to hedge funds, BlackRock, Vanguard, State Street, and they pay off the politicians who push on this agenda, who push on all the tax credits and all the rebates. Now, in New York, it's ridiculous in New York. Not only they giving you about $12,000 in incentives to install a heat pump, they also give you up to 25% state tax credit. So here's a page for New York's tax credits and incentives. So they give you up to $1,400 per 10,000 BTU hours of heating capacity. Okay, so an average home in New York would need about 80,000 BTUs. So multiply this by 8, and you have about 11,000 something. Okay, but not only that, they give you a state tax credit. So not only like $11,000, but they also give you 25% state tax credit, and you also get 30% federal tax credit. Okay, so they're doing everything they can to incentivize people to switch into something. This is pure bait and switch, because once everybody or a significant number of people switch into heat pump and electric vehicle, what they're going to do is they are going to start raising prices, and they will justify it by saying, well, we need to build new power plants, we need to upgrade our network, we need to build new substations and upgrade our delivery and distribution network, we need to put new poles, new wires, new transformers, and that all costs money. So we're raising our cost by 9%, by 15%. In Massachusetts, they don't even care. They just raised your price by more than 100% in 2 years. That's like ridiculous. And yeah, people protest, but they pay, And once you're hooked into a heat pump and your electricity starts costing $1 per kilowatt hour, you end up paying 10 grand a month, 10 grand a year just for heating. Guys, $10,000 a year just for heating. And this is what it's going to look like. I believe by 2030, they'll have enough people switch into heat pump and Teslas that they will raise your price to $1, maybe 75 cents if they're not super greedy. But at 75 cents, if you have both Tesla and a heat pump, you'll be paying 20 grand a year for electricity. That's $1,600 a month. And if they raise it to $1, you'll be paying 26 grand a year for electricity. Now, this includes your other electrical usage, like your refrigerator, your air conditioning, TV, and whatnot, but 26 grand a year just for electricity. Guys, $2,168 per month, that's what you will be paying. And, saving the polar bears is great, but all these global elites, they're funding all the politicians who support all this green agenda, and they're funding all the nonprofits who organize the useful idiots. But in the end, they will actually benefit from it tremendously. And these useful idiots, they don't understand who they work for, because they actually don't work. They do it, they volunteer. That's why they're called useful and idiots, because they will be the ones who will suffer from this. So, look, again, I love solar. I want a Tesla too. I want to charge my car at home from solar power. But, this whole political agenda to make people get into a Tesla and to install a heat pump, the end goal of all of this is to make money. These hedge funds, they are not charity organizations, guys. So when you go to protest, think about it. And I hope that people that watch my channel are not useful idiots, And so what you can do to protect yourself from all of this insanity that's going on, number one, you should get solar panels. You should get a lot of solar panels. And I understand not everybody can do that, because your roof has to face south to get maximum exposure and to get maximum efficiency. And the second thing is to get battery backup. However, if you live in the north, that's not enough, because your battery backup, even if you get like 5 power walls, that's only like about 70 kilowatt hours of useful energy that you can get from it. 5 power walls, that's about $70,000 to install. Okay, and so the power walls will not save you. They will maybe last 1 day in the cold of winter to run your heat pumps. So you have to be on the grid, and you have to live in a state with good net metering. What's net metering? Just like I showed over here. So the electricity that I generate in the summer gets stored as a credit, dollar credit on my bill, and so I can use that, and the electricity I generated in the summer, I can use it in the winter. Okay, so the solution is to get solar and to get battery backup and to move down south. If you live in the north, it's very cold, and you use a lot more energy to heat your home than to cool the home. Okay, now not everybody can move to the south. I understand that. I'm just telling you what's the ideal solution. Now, hopefully, they will keep the net metering alive, but I am afraid that, like, look at what's happening in California. They have net metering, energy metering 3.0. So they already went through 3 iterations of net metering, and basically each iteration becomes worse and worse. And now with NEM 3.0, the solar payback basically doubled from like 3.5 years to more than 7 years in California. And why that happened? So, I mean, the more expensive your electricity is, the shorter payback period you have. But California has, after, Hawaii is a small state. After Hawaii, they have the most expensive electricity in the United States. And even with the most expensive electricity, seemingly your solar panels will pay for themselves much faster. But no. Right now, with the new net metering rules, I don't really know how they work over there because I'm not from California, but the payback doubled from 3.5 years to like 7 years. In California, with the highest cost of electricity. If you're in Texas, your payback is much longer. But at least in Texas, it's a deregulated market, and they don't work with their neighbors. So if they have enough production and storage in Texas, and hopefully they will, they can keep their electricity costs down. And if you have a backup battery and a large enough solar panel, then you can basically withstand a couple of days of snowstorm and be back online the next day or a couple of days later when the sun comes out and the snow melts and you're generating electricity again. Basically in Texas, if you have a large enough solar array and large enough battery bank, you can actually be independent of the grid. Like, net metering is great for when you don't have any power, but a couple times a year you maybe buy electricity for $1 a kilowatt, but then most of the other time you generate your own electricity and you're independent from the grid. Okay, guys, thank you for watching this. Now, I'm going very fast and I didn't cover a lot of details. So I've made another video that's like a couple hours long. If you want to watch all the details where I get these numbers, how they work, please look at that. But yeah, these super expensive electricity prices are coming. And if you can't get solar panels, I don't have a solution for you, unfortunately. And again, unfortunately, this is what's happening, and it will, within 10-15 years, I believe the power will cost, regardless of inflation, $1 or more, probably $1.50 in 10-15 years. Okay, guys, thanks for watching. Please click like if you enjoyed this video, subscribe to the channel, leave your comments in the comment section below. I'll see you in the next video, and I will link most of this in the description. Bye.